Hey, Scott Jordan and Mark Warner here for Jancast number 139, January 19th, 2023. This show is being produced by ChatGPT, which means Mark and I and our special guests won't be doing anything at all. It's all going to be computer generated by an AI. Okay, guys, how's that for an intro?
That's fascinating.
How's it going, Mark?
So, if it's AI generated, it can completely change my appearance then too, right? So
Yes.
maybe I'm actually 6'5" and tall, dark, and handsome.
Yes, amazing. Amazing
not
what's
really
going
working.
on.
We have a great guest,
Yep.
Dr. Gavin McGregor-Skinner of the ISSA. Gavin and I worked together for a while at the ISSA, and we're really, really grateful that you allocated a little bit of time to talk with us here, Gavin, on Jancast.com. So give our audience a wave, man.
Yeah, hi, Mark. Hi, Scott. I just feel honored to be the 109th episode.
139th.
139th. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. Well, those, Gavin, just for the info, that's video episodes. We actually have about 175 that were just audio, because when Mark and I started Jancast, it was audio only. That was before all the streaming stuff and everything else, because we started in 2004. So if you really want to go back, you got another 100 plus shows you could listen to as well.
And they had sound effects instead of AI. We get applause and we get little whistles in the background. But what else are you going to do if it's audio only, right?
Yeah, those are the good old days. You could broadcast and you didn't have to worry about what you look like. But let's keep it moving here, because we've got the audience out there listening.
Well, the main thing to kind of talk about is what's in the news and what everybody's thinking about. And we're coming off our holiday breaks, which are, recognized throughout the entire world. So everybody knows, everybody's gathering. And right now, I probably know more people with head colds, coughs, and sneezes than I've ever known. And it's kind of fascinating because we're not in the middle of the kind of outbreak we had with COVID back in March of 2020, but it seems like there's an awful lot of people that are sick. And so that's been popping up on the news, and they've come up with all kinds of terms like, triple demics, quad demics, quintuplet demics, sextuplet demics. I don't know what the word would be for real, but it's something like that. But, what's going on out there, they're talking about the flu, and they're talking about COVID, and they're talking about RSV, which is affecting kids. But at the same time, people aren't necessarily aware that, we're still in the middle of a battle. We're winning the battle, but we're battling Mpox, monkeypox. And, Africa has got its own battles going on. And there's an Ebola outbreak that had been occurring that's being handled. But, when you start to put all the things happening in the world, I think you could go way beyond just a triple demic. And that's why it's so awesome with all that kind of stuff in the news to have a gentleman, a subject matter expert such as Dr. Gavin McGregor-Skinner on here. He's a subject matter expert on all this stuff. And Gavin, if you don't mind me calling you Gavin, my friend, but I've always been fascinated by your history as a doctor fighting Ebola back during the West African outbreak. And I know that had to be terrifying, and I'm sure there's stories that you could share with us about that time too. But I think with everything going on in the news, it's a perfect opportunity to talk about what you're doing with the ISSA, and obviously you're instructing classes at Penn State currently and traveling throughout the world helping people kind of gear up and defend themselves against the infectious disease stuff. But with all that said, I mean, you're running the GBAC program and the GBAC Star program, and we're anxious to hear a little bit more about that. But I don't want to steal any wind out of your sails there, Gavin. So, I kind of wanted to do a real quick introduction, and really I wanted to do a good job of it because of our friendship. But I now need to hand it over to Scott because he has a couple words of introduction he wants to use.
Well, Mark, you missed completely the fact that Gavin is a social media star. Gavin, when you go through the Chicago airport, are people coming up to you and asking you to sign like their water bottle or something? Is anybody calling you out because of your work with Howie Mandel and all those things?
Hasn't happened yet, Scott, and I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow either.
Darn, man. Someday, right?
No, that's definitely not on my agenda and part of my career. That I don't need to be recognized. That's not really that important to
Well, it
me.
might be out of control at this point, with the millions of people watching you checking out the hotel rooms and restrooms and stuff with Howie. You never know.
Well, for the record, next time I see you in an airport, I'm going to run up for an autograph just to get the trend started. So anyway, hey, Gavin, I was hoping that, obviously we're all pretty familiar with ISSA and with the Global Biorisk Advisory Council itself, but all of our audience may not be. And I was hoping you might take a minute just to talk about the ISSA and the GBAC and the GBAC STAR programs. And could you do that for us?
Yes, Mark. And this is interesting. It's like, you touched on a little bit of sort of my career history, what I've done, and I think I'm still sitting here now going, gosh, it's I now work for a trade association that represents the cleaning industry. And I used to run around the world looking at biological weapons. I used to run around the world looking at chasing diseases that could kill you. And suddenly now but what I find really fascinating and what I just love about everyone who works in the cleaning industry is that their will and their want to show their commitment. And we're trying to help them with that commitment on how to be committed to protecting health and well-being of people, living things, as well as the health and well-being of the built environment, and ensuring that everyone in the industry can be responsible and sustainable. And you touched on these different diseases, and I know that's what the media calls them, but what we should be doing right now is showing our commitment by being able to tell our cleaning story and being able to show that what we do has value, can be validated. That'd be a great way to, it'd be really important if we could all do that. But it's not just responding to the latest flu outbreak or the COVID-19 or some other infectious disease. It's the fact that what we do every day gives everyone the confidence that, hey, you should go into the built environment, whether it be a plane, a train, a car, a bus, or any building, and go, wow, I know how this was cleaned. I can get on and do my business and not have to worry about stuff. And we aren't there yet.
Definitely agree with you. And I think the whole feel of the world, not just the cleaning industry, but there is this impact of the perception of cleanliness that impacts people's comfort zone as to what buildings they're going to patronize or what they're going to go into or what they're going to ride in. And, that's way beyond the scope of what used to happen years ago. It's, hey, this looks great. Nice. Now, if it doesn't look very impeccably clean, people are feeling uncomfortable. So, we've been calling that on Jancast.com, the need for extreme cleanliness. And the reason for that is because it's affecting people's perception of clean and their perception of their own personal safety. So, what we're thinking is that's part of where the world's going from here. And I loved what you just said about the cleaning industry. And I know of your background working with weapons grade pathogen control and all that's fascinating to me. But, you brought out a great point, and people have underrated what the cleaning industry is about. And what we're really more about is trying to create an effective level of defense by doing the best we can from the standpoint of cleaning and disinfecting to make sure that we aren't hosting grounds that can cause some form of outbreak, right? So what happens is if people do a really good job and no outbreak occurs, they rarely get thanked for doing such a good job. It doesn't hit the news, but it's really the job of the cleaning industry to be the kind of the front line of defense in many ways. So I loved that comment. What do you see the 2023 looking like, Gavin?
I think we're seeing a continual movement forward, Mark, in what we've learned through our GBAC STAR accreditation program at ISSA. What I found was really interesting is who should be responsible. Who's that person in a facility, in an organization, in a company that's responsible for protecting the health of people and the indoor space. And so our GBAC Star accreditation program actually starts off with our it's a 20 element program. It's not pass or fail. It's continuous improvement, but it starts off identifying who makes decisions where you work, who makes decisions in that company from a cleaning perspective. In the cleaning company, who makes decisions, how are contracts developed and how are they negotiated. So, understanding right now that that value and power of GBAC Star is really focusing on people and who makes decisions. And what we're learning, and we're seeing, we're seeing teams being formed at airports, convention centers, and hotels and schools and other facilities that have come into the GBAC Star program. And they've actually realized that, as you said, that health-based cleaning is strategic. It saves them money. It provides a return on investment, but it's become part of the business's continuity of operations. And we are now seeing some feedback for the facilities that have been with us now for just over 2 years on the way that they've been able to do this sustainable in a way that's cost effective. But more importantly, what I'm seeing, and I'm hope will grow and get and really get strengthened in 2023, that visualization of how it was cleaned, what was cleaned, and more importantly, that measurement. And we're seeing so many of the GBAC Star facilities, as well as the GBAC Star service providers, the cleaning companies, actually use real measurements every day to measure cleanliness. And I think that's amazing to see numbers, to quantify it. That's what I want to really see happen in 2023.
I see movement in that direction in so many ways, going back maybe a decade or so, maybe more than that. I remember when ATP meters first came out, and it was being used at the time for food service to document safety on food prep areas, but it had a great impact on the cleaning industry. And now there's a lot of technology that's coming along that can assist in something like this, because obviously when you're doing verification or validation of a surface being safe, you can't rely on what you can see, because our enemy is invisible to the naked eye.
Yeah.
So we have to rely on some form of instrumentation to create some documentation. The other thing, Gavin, I know that's part of a GBAC Star, and it never really was part of my world as part of the cleaning industry, was looking at the air. Most of what we've done in the cleaning industry is we focus on surfaces and how to care for surfaces. And I know you have had a lot of impact in bringing the idea to the forefront of making sure that air is under control as well. Do you want to speak to that a little?
Yes, Mark, this is really important that we focus as a cleaning industry on reservoirs, and we understand. I think what's something the thing that came out from government over the COVID-19 pandemic was, clean and disinfect high touch surfaces, and that was about it. And that's not really the scientifically evidence-based methodology that an industry like the cleaning industry should be grasping. It's a good place to start, but it doesn't define who we are and what we do. So let's go back to that. Let's look at look at the evidence-based objective measurements that are available to us as an industry for air, as you just mentioned, water, and surfaces. And you'll hear me say this a lot, Mark. Dirty air leads to dirty surfaces. Dirty surfaces leads to dirty air. And it's taking that more holistic, comprehensive approach to how do you define the cleanliness of the indoor space. So again, we've got technologies out there. We've got fantastic stuff that we can use. Anything from ATP to portable microbiological tests to quantitative polymerase chain reaction, qPCR. We've got air pathogen detection. We've got fluorescent marking technology. But we've also got indoor quality monitors, which are about the size of a smoke detector, and they're affordable. And they give you real-time data on anywhere from 8 to maybe 10 or 12 different parameters within the air, particles at different sizes, volatile organic compounds, both temperature and humidity. And it's really important that we grasp that technology, that science-based approach, and start getting a baseline. So what we're trying to do with our GBAC staff facilities now is encourage them to make a small investment on these indoor quality monitors and just get a baseline. And that's saving them money. And what they're showing is, they're saying, here's the baseline in this particular room. What should I do? Well, we've got to bring in the essential cleaning professionals, and we'll develop a plan, a strategic plan of how to maintain the health and safety of this indoor space. Or they'll give us real-time data and go, hey, we had a spike. Well, what happened at 3 p.m. in the afternoon? Oh, the shift changed, or we had an event and more people came in. And then what happened? Well, after the event, it went back to normal. Do you need to do it to spend money on that? No, you don't. But what are the proper messages to give out to people when you have an event where there's crowding, for example? Well, again, crowding leads to droplets in the air. Those droplets in the air then land on surfaces. People touch surfaces. So you then have that risk of spread of infectious germs, for example. So we really want to ensure that let's catch up with technology and science. You know, this is 2023. Yeah. Let's use what we have available. Let's start getting a baseline of air measurement. Just doing that alone would be just a game changer for everyone, a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, a lot easier from a statistical standpoint to use a piece of equipment like that compared to ATP meters. Mark and I have a lot of discussions with some companies that are developing the optical way of checking for surfaces that hopefully in 2023 will really kind of come up to the point with a deliverable product. It is kind of now, but the idea of having a camera that you could shoot a room after it's cleaned and see, instead of wiping with ATP technique, you shoot a room and see where you missed or whatever. That technology hopefully is going to end up being part of the GBAC program as well, I would think, once they establish it.
Yeah, that's really important, Scott, because what we're trying to, through our workforce development programs at ISSA now, is focus on not just job training, but workforce development that focuses on identifying, and I'm going to use this term, you may not be familiar with, reservoirs. So it's not just high touch or those services, it's the reservoirs, and understanding there's at least 5 reservoirs in every built environment: water and wet surfaces, dry surfaces, dirt and dust, the equipment, whatever's in that room, and then the air. And if you understand that those reservoirs provide the food, the moisture that that allows germs to thrive and survive in the environment, and then if you understand there's with the 5 reservoirs that we have to focus on to do our risk assessment, there's then 4 main pathways that germs spread. So they spread through touch, when we breathe them in, through splashes or sprays of water or moisture, through cuts and abrasions that bypass or break down the body's natural defenses. And if all our cleaning professionals sort of move to that paradigm of understanding reservoirs, pathways, then when we deal with our customers, our facilities, the people that we clean every day, that it's so critical in the economy for the US economy plus other countries' economies. You can't work in a dirty environment or an unsafe environment. Then we're going to do better, and we're going to understand that germs are found in certain places. They're called reservoirs. There's pathways to spread to other places and people. Therefore, when we clean for health, these are the actions we do to decrease that likelihood of germ spreading.
Are they part of the process that somebody goes through when they want to get accredited by GBAC Star, by trying to indicate what they're doing proactively to deal with all those reservoirs?
Yeah, it's a really good conversation we have within the 20 elements that are submitted under GBAC Star, Mark. Again, it's not pass or fail, but we do a deep dive in some of the elements based on what equipment do you use, what cleaning products, what disinfectants, what are the active ingredients, and then we do a whole element 8. Element 8 focuses on standard operating procedures, the protocols, the procedures. What do you do each day? Are they documented? How can we help you on a pathway of continuous improvement do better? And then going back to what we were saying previously, whatever gets measured gets done. So are you measuring? Are you measuring air quality? Are you measuring surfaces? Are you visualizing just what people do to ensure that what they do, they follow the protocols, the procedures, the SOPs? And that helps us as cleaning professionals be better?
Excellent. Well, I know that,
Yeah.
you know, back in the old days, a lot of what we did in the cleaning industry was to focus on threats like bloodborne pathogens, things
Yeah.
like HIV, things like hepatitis, you know, so everything was kind of revolving around that as being a threat. When SARS-CoV-2 and the original SARS came along, you know, it kind of opened up this other Pandora's box that, yeah, you can get sick in other ways other than just touching a contaminated surface. And this whole idea of the ability to get sick through contaminated air, for example, you know, changed the whole game. And I think it's changing the game of the cleaning industry in general for us to take a fresh look at not just airborne, or not just surfaces, but also what's in the air, and where might these things also be hiding? Is it in some substrate or in the water? You know, I think about the fact that you did a lot of work in West Africa during the Ebola outbreak, and that was certainly, you know, on top of the news and everybody's minds several years ago. And yet that was a bloodborne pathogen. It was horrific, but it was a bloodborne pathogen. So it wasn't as terrifying because you could wear the right kind of personal protection equipment to be safe. When it's air, you know, what's the personal protection equipment? A Scott Air Pack? You know, I mean, it's just something that we're all have a level of exposure to, and we have to be very conscious of it. Quick question for you is, airlines are now incorporating these air quality meters, correct?
Some of them are, yes. Some of the ones that we work with at ISSA say they definitely are, Mark.
I remember you telling me one time that you were involved with several other people in training people how to decontaminate the aircraft that was carrying medical personnel over to West Africa during the Ebola outbreak, and back and forth, right? And that's kind of where I was going with that, was, you know, where our mindset was all about bloodborne pathogens and those kind of things. And, you know, and all that's evolving now into looking at it at a multi-dimensional level. But can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, Gavin, back doing that fight? Because, you know, you're a hero to the world.
Interesting you say that, Mark, because when you work with, you know, these high consequence diseases, these germs that can kill you, most of my neighbors don't want to talk to me.
Good point.
We know where you've been. My family went through a lot of, we suffered a lot when the work that I've done previously, because especially during the Ebola outbreak, you know, I trained the school soccer team. I just personally, people said, "Oh, you've just come back from West Africa. Stay away from us. You and your family, stay away from us." So that took a big toll on us personally. But the point is, even dealing with a high consequence pathogen or disease like Ebola, you just go back to first principles, Mark. And again, I want to see us move away from this idea of blood. You know, blood is sterile. If blood comes out of a person that doesn't have a disease, that there's no infectious disease particles, there's no germs in blood. But the problem is when we have blood on a surface, we have to take those precautions because it's unknown. So we follow bloodborne pathogen protocols. What I would like everyone in the cleaning industry to understand is the same what we did with Ebola. When we dealt with Ebola, we sat down and said, what's the risk? And the risk is anything that's wet from a person's body could have germs in it. And when you start making a list of all the wet stuff that comes out of a person's body, it's a lot, probably at least 11 things that are wet, and all of them can have germs in them, bacteria and viruses. And I'd like the whole cleaning industry to move in that direction. I know that when we deal with the Department of Labor, OSHA, and their standards, they talk about bloodborne pathogen standards. That's important, but it's not enough. And to become enough for the cleaning industry is we clean up vomit, we clean up diarrhea. We have people coughing and sneezing all the time in the environments we work in. So it's all that wet stuff. And if we can start quantifying what we're dealing with, just like we did with Ebola, we sat down and said, where could all that wet stuff land? And how do we clean and then disinfect to make it the planes safe, the hospitals safe, the schools safe, all the areas that we had converted into Ebola hospitals. So I think what I want everyone to understand is where do most of us spend most of our day? Well, you know, we spend 90% of our day indoors. That's well documented, it's well written. So I want everyone to understand, Mark and Scott, is that if you live to 80 years old, you've spent 72 years of your life indoors.
Wow.
And I think everyone in the cleaning industry should, well, then I'm an essential cleaning professional. I've got to, if we're going to spend that much time indoors, then let's protect them. And I think let's go back. Let's not just focus on the blood, but let's talk about a cough. When a person coughs, they produce about 3,000 droplets. Now, when you sneeze, you can have up to 40,000 droplets come out of your nose. Now, each of those droplets can contain as many as, 200 million virus particles? Now, particles from a sneeze can travel up to 26 feet. It's well documented. Particles from coughing can travel up to 6 feet. And we know that, from the outbreak we saw down in Utah amongst the choir, they're singing, they're talking, they're breathing. Those droplets moved just from breathing up to 3 feet, and then singing it went even further. We know that if we go into a public place in a restroom where the toilet doesn't have a lid or the lid's not closed, every time we flush that toilet, it releases thousands of particles into the air, and those particles, based on science, can go up to 8 feet from the toilet without a lid. We also know that a person can get sick, can get infected with a viral disease, for example, with as little as 1,000 infectious virus particles. So let's do the math. If you're a cough is producing 3,000 droplets with 200 million virus particles per droplet, and we only need 1,000 infectious virus particles to get sick, that really justifies that the cleaning industry needs to do what they do based on health-based cleaning for health, every day. But we need to justify that. We need to validate that to our customers, to the public in general, to the community. This is why we're essential. And it's that and you've used that term, Mark, cleaning professional. I want to see us use the term essential cleaning professional as we move forward.
I like it. I'll embrace that and help the cause. So, I know that we've kind of run through our time, but I wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to let everybody know where they could get more information on how to get the GBAC STAR program going.
Before we jump to that, though, but I think it's an interesting discussion, because what you're talking about is like the people that should know what they're doing as far as in the cleaning industry. And then you have the campaign with Howie Mandel that I think is trying to bring home some of the knowledge that we have to hopefully make somebody like a Howie feel more comfortable. But you've done a whole bunch of those videos with them. And is that kind of we've talked to John before, John Atkins, about the campaign, but is that your feeling that you're kind of trying to cover the normal mindset about pathogen control, health, and all that with those videos, versus GBAC is like really going in depth with the professionals?
Scott, working with Howie Mandel, after all the things that Mark said that I did in my career, working with Howie Mandel was one of the hardest things I ever did in my life.
It looked easy.
When I was in the school choir, I was told to just open my mouth and not let any noise come out. That's how good I was as a singer. I'm not an actor. I'm not anything like this. But we started that filming with Howie Mandel in the morning, and it was okay. Not scripted, and we would finish, and he would go his way, he would go my way, I'd go my way, and we didn't really talk to each other.
Right.
We sat down at lunch, and we started to get to know each other. And I said, "You are the ambassador. You're the champion here, Howie." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "The essential cleaning professional needs to be recognized for what they do." And he's going, no, I'm the germaphobe. I said, "No, forget about that, Howie. Germaphobes, that's old hat. That's so 1980s. We don't do that anymore. You are the champion. Be the champion." And he didn't understand that until we had lunch. And then the filming in the afternoon was hilarious. There's so much stuff that you'll never see that was just, we had so much fun with this. But the point is that I sat down, I said, within the cleaning industry, let's say the Department of Labor, the federal government says there's 5 million cleaning professionals in the US. That's a number they often throw out. Wouldn't it be great if we could develop a program, a workforce development program, where we could say, we trained 1 million this year. what does it look like for us? And I know, Mark, you're a fantastic instructor and you've got years and years of training experience, but let's sit back and work as a team and think, what would it take us to get to 1 million trained essential cleaning professionals every year? That's only 20% of the workforce, and have them recognized as being a trade. And that's so important. So let's focus on 1 million trained a year. Let's get them focused on being a trade. And I said this to Howard. He said, really? I said, yeah, they need mentors, they need ambassadors, they need champions to give them the confidence to create, sustain, and retain a viable workforce. We need a workforce development program. It's not just job training, it's workforce development, so that everyone gets a grip on those correct procedures and processes to manage the quality of what we do, the quality of cleaning, and to ensure that what we do is cleaner, safer, and healthier for the environment as well as for the people. And actually, treat us like frontline, as frontline first responders. And this is so important. I want to show you something. I had it here. Yeah, here we go. This is my hospital ID card, where I work in hospitals. On the back of it, it says, look at that, I'm an essential employee. It says that.
Cool.
And back in April 2020, when I was training cleaning professionals in hospitals on how to clean a hospital in the middle of a pandemic with a new disease that we didn't know much about, I came out of the hospital here in Washington, D.C. on the day that the curfew started. Everyone was told to be off the streets at 8 p.m. It was 8:15 p.m. and I got grabbed by a policeman. And he said, what are you doing? And I went, oh, I'm from the hospital. I'm an essential employee. He said, off you go. Sorry about that. Have a nice evening. And I looked over my shoulder, and the 15 people that I had just trained in the hospital, I went, oh, bugger, they don't have what I have. And I said to the police officers, they're with me. And he went, what, all 15? I went, yep, they're all with me. And I sat down that night and I went, oh my gosh, these people have to go to work in the middle of a pandemic and they're not treated as being essential.
Yeah. Wow.
What do we need to do to change that?
Cool.
I think that ought to be the primary mission moving forward.
Well, we'll put links below the feed for this. But Gavin, are there any specific places you'd like we could send people to if they want more information on GBAC? And then obviously we'll put in the links to all the Howie and you videos, or you and Howie videos would be better because you're the lead, obviously.
No, it's really important, Scott. What I like is that we're all coming together as a team. People are starting to work together. I like the fact that within the cleaning industry we have such passionate, enthusiastic, just so committed people that are so committed to what we do. Yeah. So again, if anyone wants to contact me directly or the GBAC team or at ISSA, you can just send us an email to gbacStar@issa.com.
Got it.
Just send us an email. Someone will reply to you very, very quickly. So it's gbacStar@issa.com. But also go to ISSA.com and have a look at our standards and certifications page, because I don't think people are aware of the resources, not just at ISSA, but the resources that Mark has, that other organizations have, and that we want to actually take all those pieces of the jigsaw and put them into one bucket and put them into a workforce development program. So look at the cleaning industry management standards, look at the industry certification programs, look at the residential cleaning certifications, look at our healthcare hospitality certification programs, and then look at our GBAC Star programs, our accreditation programs for facilities, cleaning companies, destinations, registered technology, our GBAC trained technician program. I think the best way to sort of where we can talk about what comes next is we are so rich in resources. The problem is we just haven't put all those pieces of the jigsaw together and said, this is what workforce development looks like for our industry.
Wow, good stuff. Well, thanks very much for joining us. I know we ran over, but very valuable information that I don't think there'll be any issues with people dealing with the length of it, because it's all stuff that is very important nowadays. Mark, you have any final words?
Yeah, I just really want to say something on behalf of the cleaning industry to you, Gavin. Beyond our friendship, I mean, I have to tell you that I've been in the cleaning industry for well over 30 years. And the cleaning industry is so much better off having people like you involved.
Yeah.
Your knowledge, your expertise changes the game of the cleaning industry, and the cleaning industry is grateful that you've taken this as part of what you're dedicating your life to, knowing where you've been and what you've done for the government. The fact that you're engaged with the cleaning industry in this way, I'm grateful for that. And I think I'm speaking on behalf of the entire cleaning industry. So my friend, I thank you for what you've been doing.
Yep.
No, I appreciate that, Mark. That's very kind. I know my family's very confused on what I'm doing now, but
mine too.
Have you? I don't know whether I get into so much trouble when I try to instruct my family. That's not how you do it. Yeah, get on your dad. Just get back to the attic where you live.
Well, thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really, real pleasure. Let's keep doing great things together.
Yep.
You got it.
Thank you all. Stay safe.